we've seen an increase in stress, and therefore we've seen an increase in inflammatory conditions, not caused by stress, but exacerbated or worsened by stress. So anything from perioral dermatitis to acne to these like eczematous conditions like atopic dermatitis to psoriasis, all of these things are not caused by stress, but they're certainly worsened by stress. And some of them are very embarrassing to talk about.
Welcome to Working Women Mentor, the podcast that delivers mentorship in every conversation. Each episode, we meet remarkable women who share the real moments, challenges, and breakthroughs that shape their journeys. These are stories that inspire, empower, and remind us of what is possible. I'm your host, Rainey Alpers, and I cannot wait for you to meet today's guest. Let's jump in and uncover your next mentor moment. Hey everyone, welcome to Working Women Mentor. Today we get to meet a fellow Louisiana lady, Dr. Ellen Turner. She's a board-certified dermatologist who runs an incredible practice in the Dallas Metroplex. She is someone who is so excited about healthy skin, anti-aging, but looking beautiful both inside and out. She loves her profession, and in this working world of ours, to speak with her about her passion for her patients, those on her team, but also those in her medical profession. She does everything she can to give back, make an impact of her own. In fact, she's got an exciting project we're going to touch on inside. But I think for everyone listening who ever has wondered, like, all the noise out there on skincare, all the products out there, all of the what ifs and what should I be worried about, and making the time for ourselves to get to the dermatologist, like this episode is jam-packed for you. I cannot wait for you to meet Dr. Turner inside. You are going to feel like you have known her forever at the end of this episode. Let's go in and meet Dr. Turner. All right, Dr. Ellen Turner, thank you for being a guest on Working Women Mentor. How are you today?
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm great. Thank you.
I am so excited to chat with you. I have to mention it's your first podcast. We are so honored that you're getting out and leaping into this space and having great conversations. I know it's going to be one of very many in your future. So thank you for sharing with us today. Would you mind introducing yourself to our audience?
Oh, not at all. So I am actually a dermatologist here in Dallas, and I like to say I do the full spectrum of clinical dermatology. I do surgical dermatology as well, and I love to perform aesthetic or cosmetic dermatology.
Everything women want. or really everyone, not just women, but for our listeners' sake, we'll just say women today. So one of our favorite things on this podcast, Dr. Turner, is to text a friend and ask them how they would describe you. And because you, by the way, were referred over, we were introduced, we're two Louisiana women by heart. You know, the introduction that I received to you was so amazing and lovely. But did you have any other friends respond to you? Would you share that with us?
Well, I think sometimes, as my grandmother used to say, you can't always judge a book by its cover. And so one of the things I asked my cousin, who's my same age, I said, how would you describe me? And she said, it's true. Sometimes people, I think, may see you on the outside and think, oh, you have it all made and, you're an attractive person, but make sure they know that your beauty does run deep and you really care about your patients. And it's not just about the aesthetic part of the practice. Like, I have a real passion for really taking care of the medical patients. And I always say my best aesthetic patients are my medical patients. So that side of the practice I love. Medicine is something that when we have the doctor-patient relationship, that's a sacred relationship. So, that's one thing. But I love having that trust built between the doctor-patient. And then if patients say, hey, doctor, what can you do for this line? Or what can you do for this, neck area? I'm starting to see that aging look. It's so nice to be able to feel that trust that we can then say, oh, let's talk about what you can do for that because you've been my patient for the last 5 years or you've been my patient for the last 10 years. I feel like we can have that conversation quite easily, and whatever recommendations that now I give them, they'll follow those recommendations without hesitation.
I love that. And the fact that your cousin sees you beyond your profession and beyond your practice, that she can really comment on that from a holistic perspective is a beautiful compliment, by the way. Because I'm sure your patients see it, but to have your family member who knows you in such a different way see you the same way most likely your patients do, I think is a true testament to how real you are as a person. So congratulations. It's beautiful. You won't forget that one for sure.
Yeah.
Well, so okay, dermatology, hot field right now. It's everyone, it seems to be the direction many want to go in medicine. In fact, I was just reading an article about this recently because of many reasons. One, for women, sometimes even balancing work and life and the hours that you have. And obviously, it's not easy. So I'm curious, where did you become, what was your journey on the way to dermatology? What inspired you to move to this field?
It's funny, the stories I was just at dinner the other night with another doctor, and we like to play the game, What If? She said, what would you have been? What if you weren't going to be a dermatologist? And I was going to be a gastroenterologist. And so I was shadowing a gastroenterologist as a fourth year medical student. And she told me a mentoring story. She was a wonderful woman. She was funny. She was so smart. She was the leader in her practice of 7 other men. She was the highest earner in that group. So just a really, really strong woman. And at the very end of the residence, or at the very end of the rotation, rather, she sat me down in the doctor's dining room and she was just telling funny stories. And at the end of that lunch, she said, interestingly, on match day, which is the day that when you find out as fourth year medical students where you're going to place. And she always thought she was going to be a dermatologist. I mean, she had high grades. It was just a given that she was going to place in dermatology. And as it turned out, she didn't get a placement in dermatology. Of course, she was devastated, but she placed in internal medicine, and then she went on to become a gastroenterologist. And obviously, she was very successful in that field, and she changed many lives as a result, even mine. And so that's why I was going to become a gastroenterologist. Well, as it turned out, through a series of, I would say, miracles, I became a dermatologist because it's very challenging to become a dermatologist. And I don't think that I was what you would say the best of the best in terms of my grades and my achievements and my accolades, but nonetheless, I'm here. I'm a dermatologist. And so I think regardless of what life throws your way, I think you end up where you are. And so I think I am very fortunate to be a dermatologist. She felt very fortunate to be a gastroenterologist. My friend I was talking to, she's actually a breast radiologist. And again, we all end up where we're supposed to be, I think. And so I think what I would say to people who are considering, for example, medicine as a field is look at the different options, and then you will ultimately end up where you're supposed to be.
Yeah, and I think that's a great way to look at, whatever profession, right? You're kind of seeking in that path. And I'm curious, I love the game that you play, like what if? It's like the path not taken. And I'm curious, I'm sure there's been moments you said it's demanding. Are there ever any moments that you just said, oh, should I be still in gastro? Or like, is this the right place for me? How did you work through those moments of difficulty?
Absolutely. I think there's many times where you just want to just lay down and quit. But I think you have to have support. Number one, I think that's key from your other fellow colleagues, your friends, your family. You have to have these other mentors in your life, people like that gastroenterologist who sat down with me at lunch and said that, hey, be prepared for whatever comes your way. That's what she was telling me at the time. Things like this podcast that you're putting on, Rainey, this is so important for other women to hear other women's stories. Hey, there's somebody else like you out there, that you will have struggles, but nonetheless, you can succeed. And to know that, there are always times in your life where you will struggle, but you can pick yourself back up if you try again. I think so many times in my life, I have looked back on my life and there were failure after failure after failure, but I picked myself up, and it was when I tried again that I was able to succeed. So yeah, I think there's definitely those, when you look back in your life, you can say, yeah, there was a lot of times when I wanted to give up, but I had to pick myself back up in order to achieve what I wanted to.
And I think that picking yourself back up is the tool. It's like, because if you look back, there's a lot. Well, we're going to have failures in our future too. We have no idea what they are yet. But it's like, it's probably going to happen at some point. Something's not going to go the way we want it to happen. Something's going to be challenging in our life. But it's, again, you have this ability to pick yourself up and keep moving. And I think that is such a strong lesson. And you describe yourself as an independent practitioner, an independent person. Your practice operates this way. You are a leader in your field and your practice. And I'm curious, how do you, when you're speaking with other women who maybe want to get into dermatology, how do you remain your true self and your spirit and the way you want to operate, but yet fit into a field? Does that make sense? How do you work with that? Because a lot of times I imagine people get into, dermatology or whatever career they may choose, and they think they have to be in the box and act this way and be this way, but you do things a little differently, don't you?
I do. And I think it's because I'm independent that I've been able to achieve that level of control over what do I want to do. There's so much of a push, I think now it's harder and harder to remain independent in the field of medicine. You have to really band together. And I think that is a good thing when you are physicians who are like-minded. But I think if you end up having to be essentially bought out by private equity, it's much harder to maintain your own level of control over the situation, especially when it comes to patient care. You have no control over your patients and the care that you want to provide. You're really more
working off a spreadsheet. You're
exactly, you're monetizing medicine now. And so that becomes very difficult because we're taught that always patient care comes first. And so with that, you can still consider the financial ramifications of the care that you provide and be smart about the practice of medicine. But the bottom line doesn't always come first when it comes to patient care.
You said something interesting because you said, I'm independent, but yet I band together. And I think people don't distinguish. Sometimes when you hear that a woman is independent, it's like, oh, she's off on her own. She doesn't play well in the sand with others. And I think what you said is a great reminder of that. That's not what independence is.
No, you have to have colleagues that you can pick up the phone or text and call with questions. I still have colleagues who are, a decade or 15 years younger than me, and they'll call me with clinical questions or business questions and say, what would you do in this situation? And I still call people who have a little bit more gray hair than me because, again, we rely on that expertise or that business acumen to be able to really manage and maintain that level of independence that we want and need.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Ellen, who were some of the mentors in your life early on? How did their guidance help you and where you are today? Do you have one that stands out?
Oh, I have many. One of the ones from college, there was a professor of psychology that he's still practicing, a professor at the college that I attended, Mississippi State University, Dr. Kerskadden. That same person that I was at dinner the other night, we were saying, well, what would you have been if you weren't even a physician at all? And I said, I think I might have gone into psychology because he made such an impact on me. And she said, yes, but don't you think we all, in some way, as physicians, aren't we a little bit practicing psychology every day? And I said, actually, now that you say that, actually, you're correct. We do. He just made such a profound impact on me through just his teaching. And he was just always so much of just a mentor and just so upbeat. Just so upbeat. That's how he looked at life. He was so positive. And again, he's still teaching today. He influenced so many lives. That's one. And then later, my dermatology professor who taught me much of what I know today. I think not a day goes by that I don't think about the things that he instructed me on.
It's nice that it sounds like they helped you put things in perspective many times. And I think that perspective we gain from others with more information who have already been there before, and they can hear you, see you, and help you shape it a little. I think that's so helpful. Do you hear from many folks in the field? Like, do you find that women are reaching out to you, or men, or anyone, to say, "Hey, Dr. Turner, I need a mentor. Can I come and work for you for the day? Can I intern with you?" What is mentorship like in your practice right now?
So I do. I sometimes will get medical students that will reach out to me. I'll even get high school students, but unfortunately we don't really have that capability due to HIPAA and violations of patient privacy. So I have to do a cutoff. If they are actually in medical school, I'm happy to host those people. I've mentored nurse practitioners. I've mentored physician assistants, especially as they're nearing the end of their training and they are required to get a certain amount of hours to be able to achieve those credentials that they need. So that's very rewarding. But yes, it's astounding how many people are interested in dermatology and seek out that kind of guidance.
It's time for a quick sponsored ad from EMK Skincare. It's my skincare secret I swear by and love it so much, I bought the company. EMK was founded over 30 years ago in Beverly Hills and is crafted from science-backed research of human placenta and the bioidentical properties to placenta found in nature. High-potency, plant-powered formulas with clinically proven ingredients. Anti-aging is just not realistic, but healthy aging skin is. And it's why this brand is loved by dermatologists, plastic surgeons, estheticians for its healing ingredients and reduced downtime after procedures. It's my secret to glowing skin, even on my busiest days, my travel days, and my longest work days. Visit emkskincare.com to sign up for emails and receive 15% off your first purchase. Now back to the episode.
When you look back, do you remember the field being as exciting as people think it is now? Was it? Because I feel like with social media and just, we're also aware of how we look, and it's just a different time, right?
It's growing by leaps and bounds. I mean, I think things like TikTok and this kind of thing, in a way, it's like a catch-22. It's like a double-edged sword because they feel like they can almost go on Instagram and get, their doctorate. And so they come in almost like pre-educated and they're like, "So doctor, I need this prescription, this prescription, this prescription." I'm like, "Then why don't you just go write for it yourself?" "Oh, well, I can't do that." I'm like, "I know, because you just misdiagnosed yourself." But in the other aspect, yeah, it's like, I'm glad because people are so aware of how much this field has really grown in leaps and bounds. I mean, when I was a resident, we would have a lot of family practitioners and internists come through in their training, and they could not get out the door fast enough at noon because they were like, "This is my blow-off rotation. I am ready to go. We just want to be in your clinic, and then y'all go do your thing in the afternoons." And what we were doing in the afternoon is literally all of our didactics. I mean, we were learning a tremendous amount of information in the afternoons. That is where, how I am able to assimilate all of what I see in a clinic. So not all of what we see is just acne. Obviously, I mean, we have to be able to diagnose any rash that walks in that door. And it's a tremendous amount of possibilities. But fortunately, it's like they say, if it has hooves, don't always assume it's a zebra. It could be a horse. And most likely it is, but sometimes those zebras do walk in and we have to know what that is when it does.
Let's talk about drellenturner.com. You have a new project you're working on, and it's a platform that it sounds like has a lot to do with mentorship as well. Tell us about your new project.
I'm really excited about this new project. The premise is based on training videos for aesthetic providers. So what it surrounds, really, it started with the concept of injectables, but it really kind of expounds beyond just training injectables. We're going to even train on things like laser and light procedures as well. doing things like thread lifts, etc., but all on a video platform. And so they'll be able to subscribe and then be able to see, and we'll go back and we'll continue to refresh the site on an ongoing basis. And then the site will also contain things like my blogs, which I'm doing currently. I'm working on a book as well, so hopefully that at some point will make it into the light of day, but we'll see about that.
Ah, well, that is so much to unpack. I mean, so did you find a space, like a missing space, really, a void in your industry that you thought, wow, if only I could record these videos and these trainings, and as things are moving so fast in technology and I'm sure your field, right? Was there just a void? Is that what inspired you for this particular project?
I think there are two voids. One, I think there's a void for really good teachers and trainers in the aesthetic industry. And we're seeing such a wild growth happening in that aesthetic arena. And there won't be enough teachers and trainers to fill that void by the year 2030. So my thought was, why don't I help fill that void by giving this platform so people can have the comfort of their own home to be able to look at that at their own convenience and on their own time. And the other thing was that I love to write. And so I thought I would fill that void. For me, this is an outlet for me. I really like to write. And so part of these training videos requires a large amount of preparation and writing, like the blogging aspect, etc. So
Yeah, it seems like it does all work together. The content you're working on for the training video can apply to the blog, can cross over potentially to the book. I'm sure the book might be a little bit more personal than that. But either way, so if I'm listening to you right now, can I sign up for this particular training? Or is this someone more in it going into a career in aesthetics or medicine? Who is your ideal
clientele, I would say you absolutely can. We're going to have on drellenturner.com, we're starting to feed out through my blog. What I would say is to everyone, start reading my blogs. And then as the ending of that, we'll be redirecting patients to the website so that if you're willing and want to be focused towards that platform, we'll direct you accordingly.
So how are you you've got so much going on. You've got your practice, now you're working on building out a training program and then a book. And then you also have a personal life, right? We were just talking about that before the recording, but how are you balancing all of this and what is keeping you motivated?
Balance is key. I think I have a great family. I have a great support life. I have a great staff at my dermatology office. All of these things are critical to that. And I think you just have to realize as women, we have to really not judge ourselves. We have to forgive ourselves. We're the first to judge ourselves, and we're the last to, basically, we're the last to forgive ourselves. So we have to remember, be kind to ourselves first. So that's the key to balance, I think. But yeah, I'm excited about what the future holds. And I really think the writing is kind of my safe space, my space where I go to kind of meditate. And that gives me kind of my release, my peace.
Which is a motivation in itself, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
It also sounds like, you said, well, I noticed that there aren't as many teachers out there. We can't keep up with the demand. I want to jump in and help. This sounds a little bit legacy driven as well. The book, the training. What impact would you like to leave on the dermatology field?
Oh, I think that would be incredible if someone said, even, a handful of people said, wow, she taught me X, Y, or Z. To me, that would be a reward and a legacy in and of itself.
Mm. We mentioned TikTok and the self-diagnosing and everyone, from a beauty influencer almost thinks they're a dermatology expert. So I know you see so much of that. What are some of the trends that you're seeing in dermatology that are relevant to women's health right now? Because often we, like you said, we don't forgive ourselves. We sometimes put ourselves last. We take care of everyone else first. What are we overlooking? What is going on that we might need to open our eyes to right now?
Well, I definitely think we need to make sure that we're getting in yearly for our skin checks. We need to be using daily sunscreen, especially the physical block version, not chemical sunscreens. And that's what I preach every day to my practice and to my patients. I think the first thing, if women are wanting something that is good skincare, I see so often that women are trying to, if they're making the foray into aesthetics, they're trying to look and see, like, where do I spend my money? I have X amount of money, but I really want to spend it wisely because, I've got my family to deal with. I've got, my child that I have to send to college. They're seeing the aging right at the time that they've got kids in college to contend with. Maybe they've got their car payment to deal with. Maybe they've got their kids' car payment to deal with. So it's just a lot of things hitting them at the same time. So, of course, they want to be wise with their dollars expenditures. First and foremost, they want to be on a good skincare line. And going in and having a consultation with an esthetician is probably the first thing to do, rather than go, for example, to somewhere like TikTok or Sephora or Ulta, because they will have you spend a tremendous amount of money on fashion and marketing, but I don't know that that's where the science is really going to be given to them. So again, I would go to a dermatology office where someone that has been trained and educated by a dermatologist that can actually help them with their needs.
That's great advice because our skin, and especially with hormones and aging, and our skin is changing all the time. I can wake up dry or oily. Like, which day of the week is it? And I have a regimen for those days, right? But until you start understanding your own skin, you can waste so much money. And I think excellent advice to everyone listening, like close the TikTok video, head into an expert, and at least they may not even tell you what to buy. They may tell you what areas you need to target, and that is perfect. That's all you need to know. And that it's a changing thing. So I so appreciate that. How are you seeing the trends from, I know post-COVID, for example, there was a boom in plastic surgery and aesthetics because we're all on camera now. We're all looking at ourselves in these. It's like, I can tell when my skin, I can tell if, all these flaws that we see. Are you still seeing this on the rise, or has that slowed down?
No, we've still seen a rise of that. We've seen another rise after COVID. For some reason, we've seen an increase in hair loss patients. So that's another unfortunate thing, but one that your dermatologist can help you with. So again, don't be fooled by fashion and marketing. Come to your dermatologist and we'll do the correct kind of examination and treatment plan for that too.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned hair loss because everyone I know, like not everyone, but many are taking Nutrafol. They're on. I mean, I've taken it. I mean, when I get stressed, I start shedding hair. I've had to go in and because when you start losing hair, you're like, what's going on? You fear waking up bald one day, which usually is not going to happen. But get in and see someone and, target what's going on. I think a lot of people are embarrassed to talk about the hair loss. So thank you for bringing that up. Yeah, I'm sure when you meet patients, they're probably pretty freaked out about what is about to happen.
Absolutely. So it's a real diagnosis. Yeah.
I have to touch on stress because in your industry and in all of ours, no matter what we're doing, stress is just a part of life. It's never going to go away. It's finding a way to manage it. How do you see stress and inflammation factors affecting women that are coming into your practice right now? I mean, is it changing over time? Is it peaking? Is it that we just don't know how to manage our stress? What's your feeling on this topic?
I think we've seen over the last at least decade, if not longer, we've seen an increase in stress, and therefore we've seen an increase in inflammatory conditions, not caused by stress, but exacerbated or worsened by stress. So anything from perioral dermatitis to acne to these like eczematous conditions like atopic dermatitis to psoriasis, all of these things are not caused by stress, but they're certainly worsened by stress. And some of them are very embarrassing to talk about. They're certainly embarrassing to have appear on our skin. And in a society that assumes and demands that women have perfect skin, it's just, and again, like you were mentioning, we're on social media, we're expected to be on Zoom calls and appear like we're the perfect woman that has it all together. And so I think that makes it even more stressful. And so it's just this never ending story. It's like a cat chasing its tail. So I think it's important. Some of these conditions, I literally tell my patients, you have to de-stress. You have to find at least 2 minutes to just take some deep breathing exercises at your desk, or, go for a walk 15 minutes a day. And I'm not talking a power walk. I'm talking, just
A stroll.
walking around your neighborhood, looking at the trees and the grass. You need to do hot baths, warm baths, drink some chamomile tea. Get in that moment where you're actually enjoying, meditating for you, not for anyone else. Because if you're not doing it every single day, these things will catch up to you. And I'm my worst culprit. I mean, some days it's just life overwhelms, and then I realize, what are we doing this for? I mean, what are we, let's look at the bigger picture here. So we need to reduce stress because, again, I'm seeing so many more things that are stress related. These things are worsening the skin and the hair loss kind of situations and these kind of entities that we can improve through just stress reduction.
I think that's a great reminder. And I mean, I personally have such an appreciation for your field. And I mean, I've always thought, even at a younger age, I remember having a breakout of acne, which I didn't really have often. And I thought, what in the world? This is not like me. Like, it just blew my mind. Went to the dermatologist in Lake Charles, in my hometown. And I learned really quickly that simplify things, simplify your skincare at that point. We had a plan for what was going on. We fixed it. And moving forward, I always went in, maybe a little bit of an alarmist, in fact, but I didn't want to go seeking online, hey, how do you cure X? Or I've got a rash. What do I do? It's just like, nope, I am going to the experts, and that's all I want to do. And it saves quite a bit of money. It's healthy, I think. And so, good reminder, great tips today. And so, okay, before we leave, we have to know your mentor moment, Dr. Turner, that you want to share with us, the moment that people are going to remember you by from this episode.
The mentor moment. Oh, wow. You saved the best for last. Oh, I would have to say, well, the doctor he was the one that got me into dermatology. That would be Dr. Grimwood. So if it weren't for him and his ability to get me funding, he was the person who made this happen. The reason why there is a Dr. Ellen Turner in the dermatology office in Dallas, Texas.
I love that. How would you take his advice to you and give it to others so they can be that same Dr. Ellen Turner? Like, what is it that he said or did that you want people to be able to remember and to kind of implement or help others with?
I think it's what he did, not so much what he said. It's what he did. He just always worked so hard, and it's the example that he set for all of us as residents. He just never gave up. He was one of those Midwest men. He never complained. He just always did, and he was just an example of graciousness, calm under pressure, and, just that never give up attitude. And I think that's what I try to emulate.
Yeah. And also, what I hear from that too is do it. Don't say it. Do it. And that's my takeaway almost on that, because often we say a lot of words, but what are we really doing on a daily basis? How are we really interacting with others? Like, I think that is a beautiful mentor moment to remind us all with. So, Dr. Turner, how can we find you and support you and follow you?
So our phone number is 214-373-7546. And my website is www.dermatologist, officedallas.com. And our new website that we'll be hosting is drellenturner.com. That will be our teaching site, but it's yet to launch. So we're looking forward to that as well.
Instagram, Facebook, I know you're there.
Yes, we
You're there. We will hunt you down and find you to follow your blog. Dr. Turner, thank you for joining us. You've been just such a pleasure. And all of these thoughtful tips and mentorship advice in your field and in really any, I think we're thankful for. So appreciate it.
Thank you, Rainey.
Before you go, a huge thank you for being a part of this episode. I hope it left you with a spark of inspiration. And if you haven't already, hit that follow button and subscribe button to stay connected. Now is a great time. Your reviews are the heartbeat of our podcast. So if you enjoyed what you heard today, a review would really mean the world to us. Let's keep this conversation going as well on Instagram at Rainey Alfers. Visit us at RaineyAlfers.com for all episodes, show notes, and also to express your interest to be a guest. Please sign up. We'd love to hear from you. And until next time, I'll see you back on Working Women Mentor.